Good evening, everyone. It's May 24th, 2022, and it is a meeting for not just Ward 1 residents, for anyone who's interested in this important subject matter. So welcome to all. We're here to discuss the Chedoke Creek remediation plan. Before we begin, I will start with a land acknowledgement. The City of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabeg to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase 1792 between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, the City of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island, and we recognize that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. So I think a very meaningful opening to a very important discussion about our relationship with the water and how we're seeking to care for something which was damaged.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in on this very lovely Tuesday evening. Please excuse my voice. I'm fighting a bit of a cold, so it's been a bit worn out at the moment. But I do want to thank Councillor Wilson and her team for inviting us to speak tonight about this very important project. My name is Carrie Vanderperk. I'm the Director of Watershed Management, and I'm here today with three of my colleagues. Tim Crowley, who's the Project Manager of Watershed Management and is the city's lead on the remediation of Chedoke Creek and Coutts Paradise. We have Ron Scheckenberger. He is from Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions, and he's a Principal of Water Resources and the project lead for our consultant Wood on this project. And also joining us tonight is Nick Winters. He's currently the Acting Director of Hamilton Water. And Nick has over 20 years experience in the water and wastewater industry. In his previous role as Director of Water and Wastewater Operations, Nick oversaw the operations and maintenance of the two wastewater treatment plants, the distribution of our drinking water, the collection of our wastewater, and as well as our customer service and community outreach team within Hamilton Water. So his knowledge and experience will be particularly helpful during our Q&A if you happen to have any operations related questions. Just a little bit about my team. The Watershed Management team was established by the city in early 2021, in part to oversee the remedial efforts of Chedoke Creek that Tim will outline for you shortly in his presentation. My team is also responsible for the planning and implementation of the city's Watershed Action Plan, which in consultation with our community partners, it will essentially review, analyze, and prioritize any City of Hamilton-owned actions to improve our watersheds and ultimately aid in bringing us closer to delisting the Hamilton Harbor as an area of concern. Tim, who is leading the Chedoke project, is also leading the Watershed Action Plan, so he's a busy guy, and we're very lucky to have him. Well, there have been many community groups and stakeholders involved in this remedial process for Chedoke Creek and Coutts Paradise. I'd like to acknowledge our friends at the Royal Botanical Gardens. They are the impacted landowners from the Chedoke incident. The RBG has been very gracious with their time and expertise, while the city and our consultants have established the work plans in response to the order, and particularly Tice Meyer and Jennifer Bowman, who continue to provide us with their feedback and their support of this remedial effort. And I also wanted to recognize the team at Wood and the support that they've brought to the table in responding to the MECP's orders regarding the Chedoke incident. Ron, who's with us today, and his team have been a constant throughout this journey and have worked extremely hard for the city and the community with a high level of acumen and integrity. We really appreciate Ron joining us here today for this presentation and to assist us with any of the more technical questions that you may have. And with that, I will pass the proverbial torch over to Tim.
Good evening, everyone. So this is tonight's agenda. We'll be reviewing the three general topics you see on your screen, with the main focus being on the current Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks order, which again, like Stephanie said, will be followed by a Q&A session. So what happened? If you search combined sewer overflow tank in the 2018 Chedoke Creek spill on YouTube, you'll find a great 12-minute video. Explains a lot, especially how a combined sewer overflow works and what happened. For those that are interested, we encourage you to watch the video in its entirety. For now, we want to show you a little bit of that, or a portion of it, for some context on the upcoming slides.
In July 2018, the City of Hamilton informed the public that we had discovered that the Main King CSO tank was discharging untreated wastewater into Chedoke Creek. At the time of this public notification, the duration and volume of the spill were unknown. We immediately stopped the discharge and began cleanup activities in the area. Since discovering the spill in July 2018, we have been working with the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks to investigate the incident. As this investigation was ongoing, the city had not previously shared detailed information about the spill. However, this video includes a brief summary of what staff currently believe are the circumstances that led to the discharge. Investigations have determined that the spill was a result of two separate malfunctions at the Main King CSO tank. First, a station bypass gate in the tank that should have been in the closed position appears to have been manually opened to approximately 5% on January 28, 2014. An error in computer programming showed this as normal operation, and as such, this error remained undetected until July 2018. This gate is approximately 14.5 meters below ground. Its purpose is to isolate wastewater flow in order for the tank to be taken offline to perform major repairs. The gate itself sits 1.4 meters above the bottom of the channel where wastewater enters the Main King CSO tank. Wastewater flow would have generally stayed below the open gate. However, at times wastewater passed through the partially open gate and out into the creek. Despite extensive investigations, the city has not been able to determine why the gate had been opened in January 2014. A second gate that should have remained in the open position during normal operation experienced a mechanical failure in January 2018. This was also discovered by the city in July 2018. The sensor on this piece of equipment did not detect the mechanical failure and was reporting normal operation. This gate moves vertically up and down on a stem, and the sensor for it is attached to the mechanism that raises it up and down. As a result of the mechanical failure, the gate became separated from the stem and remained in the closed position. However, since the mechanism with the sensor was still moving, it was reporting normal operation. This second failure allowed significantly more wastewater into Chedoke Creek, creating odors and reports of visual floatables in the creek. As part of the investigation, the city has completed computer modeling exercises to estimate the amount of wastewater that was released into the creek. It was estimated that approximately 24 billion liters of stormwater and sanitary sewage was discharged over the course of 4.5 years. Unfortunately, our investigation to date has not been able to pinpoint the cause of the malfunction with certainty. However, we are taking steps to ensure we are able to reduce the risk of spills like this from happening again by reviewing our procedures and improving on-site inspections of our CSO and other wastewater facilities. As stewards of the environment, we take spills very seriously and are committed to protecting our natural resources. At this time, the city is continuing to work with the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks in their investigation. There is no evidence of any human health effects identified as resulting from this spill. The city discovered the source of the spill on July 18, 2018. There was no knowledge of the spill at any time prior to July 2018. Within only a few weeks of locating and stopping the discharge, water quality sampling results showed a substantial improvement in water quality conditions associated with a dramatic decrease in E. coli to pre-spill levels. For many years, Public Health Services continues to recommend against using the watercourses linked to Chedoke Creek for primary contact recreational water activities, such as swimming or wading, or secondary contact recreational water activities, such as canoeing or fishing. As such, signs warning against any contact with those waterways are expected to remain in place indefinitely. The spill had no impact on the drinking water supply in Hamilton, as Lake Ontario is the source of our drinking water.
So up next are the city actions from the discovery up until the beginning of 2021. This includes operational, procedural, and physical changes that were done. The first of which is the bypass gate was physically sealed, preventing any accidental operation and eliminating any unintended discharge. The second gate and stem sensor was also reconnected, and site inspections at all the combined sewer overflow facilities have also been completed with no similar issues identified. The surface of the creek was also cleaned. A boom is also installed annually from April to November to collect any floatables, not just from the CSO overflow, but from upstream creek inputs as well. The error in computer programming was fixed. This is a screenshot of what the operator sees on their computer screens. You can see the pumps and the valves and the transmitters. And this is an example of an error message that they would get, or a pop-up warning them that something's awry. We also created an enhanced City of Hamilton outstation team. This team is made up of an operator, electrician, instrumentation tech, millwright, and they perform inspections and look at the station as a whole to verify its operational functionality. This includes a detailed review of the electrical, mechanical, instrumentation, controls documents, which we'll get to shortly, and computer programming. We also updated our controls documents and enhanced operator training. So controls documents, if you're not familiar, is really a document that describes how the CSO facility or tank works in a written format. And it's very important for training new staff. We also developed and rolled out our wastewater quality management system. So having records and logs and annual reports adds to better management and is the key component to our continuous improvement. And it supports the environmental, health, and safety compliance culture within Hamilton Water. The wastewater overflows and bypasses monitoring website was also created. It's a live map updated every 15 minutes, providing current information for each monitored outfall. It also includes historic records as well. And we developed a surface water quality program that samples surface water locations monthly throughout the city. The purpose of this program is to work with internal and external stakeholders to develop and monitor baseline surface water quality conditions. The information is provided through the Open Hamilton data portal for monitoring, trending, and research purposes. A list of all the physical and chemical parameters tested are indicated on the website below. This is a busy slide, but we just wanted to point out that all of the reports and studies conducted under the previous MECP orders can all be found on the Chedoke Creek website. In addition to all those actions, the city also initiated Chedoke Creek Water Quality Framework Study. This study involved a high-level screening and prioritization of the available options for the Chedoke Creek watershed. This involves either capital, operational and maintenance costs, or programs that can be enhanced, and potential policies that can either be adapted to help the quantity and quality improvements within the watershed. Established an overall plan for water quality, and it's developed through the participation of these external stakeholders. Since the initiation of the study came before the current MECP order, certain projects identified in this study were used to address requirements within the order. So speaking of which, this brings us to the main focus of today's presentation, which is the current MECP order issued to the city in December of 2020. In the following slides, we'll be reviewing what has been done since the order was issued and the next steps. So the objective of the order is to improve Chedoke Creek and provide offsetting remediation mitigation measures to account for environmental impacts that may not be addressed by dredging alone. So as you can see here, it was kind of done in two parts. The first part is the removal, or what we call the targeted dredging of Chedoke Creek. And that work plan has been approved by the MECP and is also on the Chedoke Creek website, and it lays out our plan. The second part is offsetting. So what we can't get by dredging, we can offset. And those two documents there, the Coots Paradise Report and Coots Paradise Work Plan, again, also approved by the NECP, are also on the website and detail what our plan is. Both work plans will be summarized here shortly in these slides. So while working through the order requirements, the project team evaluated and we received permitting approvals from the Hamilton Conservation Authority and the Royal Botanical Gardens to install a small-scale aeration system within Chedoke Creek, upstream of the Cage Dredge Park Bridge, and 800 square feet of floating treatment wetlands within Princess Point. Public signage was developed in coordination with our corporate communications department and the Royal Botanical Gardens in order to educate the public on the benefits of each small offsetting project. The floating treatment wetlands will be left anchored in place within Princess Point throughout 2022, while the small-scale aeration will be removed prior to dredging operations. So both small offsetting projects are pilots or small tests to learn more about any operational and maintenance requirements and explore the benefits each one has to offer, and not really exclusively to solve any specific issue at this moment in time. So here's an overview of our targeted dredge timeline. The project expects to start targeted dredging after July 15th. This is the earliest start date since in-water work is restricted based on the Ministry of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry regulations on the fish species present. So due to the fish species identified in Chedoke Creek, in-water work is prohibited from March 15th to July 15th each year. The project is expected to take 4 to 5 months to complete, and most of the permitting applications required to do this in-water targeted dredging work required at least a 90% design package to be completed. This was needed in order for those agencies to have sufficient project detail to assess their permitting requirements and to either approve or deny the permitting. In order to complete that 90% design package, field work and desktop analysis was completed, which is presented on the following slides. So the first of which is sediment sampling and bathymetry. This involves collecting and updating information on the total soft sediment that is required for design and permitting. So the bathymetry looks at the total water depth, so the top of the water to the top of the sediment. And the sediment samples that were collected were analyzed for a variety of chemical and physical properties, including ammonia, nitrogen, and phosphorus. The samples were taken every 50 meters, left, right, and center of the creek. And then every 15 centimeters of each sediment core was averaged, and the concentrations compared to 2 quality guidelines, the provincial sediment quality guideline and the Canadian sediment quality guideline. Topography, which looks at the forms and features of the land surfaces, was also done via a drone Lidar system. So for those that aren't familiar, if you think of bats or subs, they use sonar or sound to ping. The Lidar uses light to transfer from the drone down to the land and then back up again. So some advantages of using a drone Lidar system is that it's more efficient for capturing this data and coverage while compared to a walking or land-based survey. So the topography was also tied to the bathymetry and the sediment sampling, and that whole package provided the basis for the estimation of the amount of sediment to be removed. So up next is our species at risk investigations. These are the identified species at risk known to be in the area. Each had an identified survey window. And based on those investigations, the only species at risk that had the potential to be in the area, or that has the potential to be in the area, is the Lilliput mussel. This species only moves about 4 meters in their life, and the work area will be searched prior to dredging. Whether they are found or not, permitting also includes adding habitat enhancements for this species in a nearby known Lilliput mussel location within Coots Paradise. So the hydrologic and hydraulic computer modeling simulated the flow of rainfall runoff to predict the extent of creek water levels. It provides a scientific approach to planning and designing and construction of this restoration project. The modeling also satisfies the regulatory requirements and ensures that the natural and social resources are not damaged by the proposed dredging. So in addition to all that work that was required for permitting, we also pre-qualified 4 contractors. Those 4 contractors are the only ones that will be bidding on the project that is currently open right now. We also completed the 100% design in order for those contractors to bid. And then we continue to engage our Indigenous Nation partners. And also we're in the midst really of the tendering of the projects, with the tendering closing next week. So here's an overview of all the necessary permits for the targeted dredging within Chedoke Creek. We only have 1 pending, and it is expected any day now. So here is our list of external stakeholders. They were kept up to date by the project milestones. This large group also reviewed and provided comments on our 30, 60, and 90% designs. And some of which you can tell here are our permitting agencies as well. And then here's a list of our internal stakeholders and impacted local institutions. They have also been kept up to date. The internal city stakeholders also help the project team advance the design through the 30, 60, and 90% phases. So the sediment quality samples that were collected at numerous locations in Chedoke Creek and Princess Point in April and August, as previously discussed, resulted in the project area being 100 meters south of Cage Park Bridge, and it extends about 100 meters north of the Desjardins Recreational Trail Bridge. So you can tell here that we've further divided it into 2 zones, a north and a south zone. We will dredge approximately to an average depth, the average being between the 2 zones, about 1 meter down. And we will remove approximately 11,000 cubic meters of sediment. So here's an overview again of that same project area, just lumped together as one area. So the dewatering, or separating the liquids and the solids, will occur in the dredge material management area. More on that in a little moment. And the separated water will be sent to the Woodward wastewater treatment plant for treatment on dry days only. This stipulation is meant to stop any potential other CSO overflow event on wet days as the water makes its way to Woodward. So the dredging will be conducted hydraulically. This means that we will be vacuuming up the sediments or the solids from the bottom of the creek, similar if you're familiar with Randall Reef. Prior to dredging activities, the in-water work area will be isolated using a barrier, and fish and wildlife will be excluded from the work area prior to dredging by a qualified aquatic biologist. This mitigates any potential interaction with the dredging operations. Permitting also requires that the creek flow remain unimpeded, so each zone will be broken down into smaller isolated sections covering only half the creek. So back to dewatering, or removing the water from the solids. Here's the process flow. So what happens is we will pump the slurry, which is the vacuum solids mixed with the water in the creek, into a geotextile container, while an environmentally safe polymers are added to make the solids bind together. The water then simply drains from the container while the solids are captured inside. It's then all that water is then captured and sent to the sewer main, again on dry days only, while the solids remain in the container. And then when it's full and dry, the container is cut open and the solids are trucked away to a landfill. But here's a quick picture of a geotextile container, and I'll do my best to explain it in simple terms. Really, the way I think of it is it's like a sock. So the slurry goes into the sock, only water can get out of the sock. And then the solids stay inside the sock. So that happens until the sock is full of solids and there's no more room for water. All the water is left. And then it's dried a little bit and then cut open and hauled away. So all the water from that sock falls on an impermeable membrane. So the whole work area will be, a membrane will be laid out so that the water can't penetrate the ground. And all the water will stay on that membrane and it will be collected and then piped to the manhole. So here in this video that you'll see here, it explains the process. It is just an example. Our process will have slight differences, but I think it's really important or valuable for you to see it and in action versus just slides of the process.
The depth of the pond is about 1.5 meters, and we're looking really to remove at least 1 meter of that sludge. We have to cut it quite carefully to ensure that we have enough dilution water, so when the dredge comes forward, he won't be just taking a bite full of the solid sludge, he'll be trying to mix in water at the same time. The dredge sucks up the sludge from the base using the cutter head, removes it via the floating pipe through the on-ground pipework to the dosing tent where the appropriate polymer is added, and then it goes onward towards the tubes which dewater the sludge. Choosing the appropriate polymer is so important to the success of these projects. It can mean the difference between a tube full of water and a tube full of very dry solids. Once you've got it, you then have to make sure that you shear it into the pipeline and then it's dosed appropriately into the different tubes. This is a live sample from the dredge after it's been dosed with the polymer. We monitor this from time to time to see how well the sludge is being flocked by the polymer, whether there's appropriate dosage, and this material is going directly into the tubes. So this is an older bag that's been pumped several times before, and we're just doing the final top up. You can see that still with the appropriate dosing of the polymer, you can get a clear filtrate coming out here. The water, as you can see, is coming out very clear. Water tends to come out of the top of the tube, and as it comes out, so it filters down to the seam, finds its way out. The dredge is pumping at between 3,000 and 5,000 litres per minute, and the fabric, as it gets older, is more reluctant to release the water. Brad is just going to hit the bag to accelerate the water coming out. As the water starts to flow, you just get a clear filtrate coming out. And of course, the quicker we can get the water out of the tube, the better. It means we can get more sludge in, and obviously more sludge means more tonnage of solids that we've got out of the pond. To look at this is fantastic compared to what we saw in Brad's jug earlier. That's obviously the material that went in, and now we can see just how dry it is. This material will continue to dry as the tube ages, and the client may decide to leave this for several months before they get rid of it. And it could be used for soil improvement, or if there are any contaminants, then it may have to go to landfill.
So that's just an example. Again, I hope that helped. So the dredging activities will occur 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, with approximately two trucks an hour removing sediments to the landfill. And the trucks will use this route shown here. Just leave it up for a little bit. So for the local impacts, we'll just review the list of 7 identified impacts that we've identified. So the odor, we don't expect any impact due to the dredging method. So as you saw, it's hydraulic. Everything is contained within the pipeline, and the dewatering method is through those geotextile containers, so those socks, keeping all the material contained. However, we do have provisional odor mitigation tools that will be utilized should odors become a nuisance. For noise, Again, no expected impact due to the dredging and dewatering method, but should a concern arise, please report it to the number shown below and state that the call is related to Chedoke Creek. For mud and dust, again, no impact as there are requirements within the contract to street sweep, but should a concern arise, please again report it to the number below. For bus traffic, again, no expected impact as buses will be given the priority on the trucking route. For park closure, so the Case Dredge Park will be closed for public access for the duration of the dredged activities. Starting sometime in June, the park will be used as a staging area for the dredge preparations and will be utilized throughout the project as the dredge material management area. Upon completion, the park will require restoration work. Therefore, it is expected that it will reopen to the public in the spring of 2023. So for trail closure, the trail located behind the Nicholas Mancini Center accesses or has the ability to go right into the park. This will be closed again for dredging activities and will reopen once the park restoration has been completed. There is no expectation that the Desjardins recreational trail will be impacted, and signs will be posted should impacts arise along with advance notice. And then lastly, pedestrian traffic. Again, no expected impact as pedestrians will also be given the right of way, and there'll be many, many signs posted throughout the Macklin Drive and the two trails. Again, any issues, please contact that number and say that it is related to the Chedoke Creek work. So additional communication tools will also be used to notify the public. This includes mailers, flyers, posters, social and print media, along with that on-site signage that I spoke to. So the targeted dredging next steps include continuing to execute the communications plan. So these are regular updates through our website and social media. Addressing any permitting requirements prior to in-water work. So most of the permits do have requirements that we do something before we even are allowed into the water. So those boxes have to be checked before we're allowed in. So we're working through that. And then evaluate those bids and award the project to a successful contractor. Again, that RFT or request for tender closes next week. So last but definitely not least are the offsetting plans. Since we will not be able to remove everything that was discharged with dredging, additional projects have been proposed. These projects will address the deficit shown here, either in a one-time or annual removal of nutrients. So the first is a Stormwater Retrofit Ea. This will focus on the quantity and quality improvements of stormwater runoff in the entire watershed. Two other EAs are the Ainsley Wood Sewer Separation Ea. This is looking at removing a creek input into our combined system and adding that flow back into the environment. And the Lower Chedoke Creek Ea is looking at a variety of different options, including creek aeration, the naturalization, restoration of the delta into the Princess Point abatement, among others. So the city is required under the Environmental Assessment Act to evaluate any large-scale initiatives through the municipal class EA process. So these three EAs that are shown here will include a detailed environmental, social, and economic assessment of opportunities to improve the water quality entering Chedoke Creek. Any alternatives that are identified will also be evaluated through additional fieldwork, analysis, and agency, stakeholder, public, and Indigenous engagement. The three EAs will be completed concurrently in 2022 and 2023, with the identified preferred projects advancing to design and construction thereafter. Something else that we're working on is additional investigative studies in Cootes Paradise. So this, working very closely, the project team is working with RBG on defining the scope of this work and locations, and beginning field investigations shortly. And lastly, our 2 citywide policies. So we have a roads retrofit rehabilitation policy where we'll examine opportunities to provide stormwater management, again, quality and quantity improvements for rehabilitated or reconstructed roads to maximize runoff treatment. And the stormwater management policy will consist of updating the existing stormwater management policy for redevelopment sites, and will contain a prescription of best management practices, including low impact development measures within the city. So in closing, we just want to let everyone know about our newly launched website. You'll see there below, hamilton.ca/Chedoke Creek remediation. The existing site will stay, with this site focused more on the remediation and the project progress. So it has the same information that was presented here today. And at any time, you can click on the story map shown on the right-hand side here for regular updates on the progress on the dredging and the offsetting projects. So again, should anything not be addressed or anything out of the ordinary, please do call the number shown here and state that it's related to Chedoke Creek. For more information, please feel free to visit the website for those regular updates. And then any other inquiries, feel free to contact myself with the details shown here. And with that, I will open it up to questions.
Why is it falsely stated at the end of your video that the spill was unknown prior to July 18th, 2018? This is not correct, and both the city and the ministry knows this to be incorrect. The sewage stream waste was known to be fouling the creek from at least spring 2018 on, and there was evidence brought specifically to Hamilton Water prior to this date, since 2015. Those reporting it were belittled, outwardly disbelieved, and treated with considerable hostility. Nick, I know you were not leading the group at that time, but are you able to speak to on this misalignment of information that was presented at the end of the video and what we know to be presented elsewhere?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. I mean, honestly, I can tell you we didn't know. And I hope that doesn't ring hollow, but I can tell you, our commitment as operators of a water wastewater utility to the community and to the environment is extremely important. It's why people get into our business. And again, we don't know each other, but I would ask you to trust that if we'd known that something like this was going on, we would have reported it. We would have stopped it. There's no way we would have let it continue for years upon years. Now, I can understand where the question is coming from. There were reports over a period of time, on occasion, of odors in the Chedoke Creek area. We had some members of the Indigenous community who had pointed out an issue with floatable sanitary products along the bayfront in the harbor a number of years before this spill was discovered. And I can't speak to the context of the conversation that was had between city staff and the members of the community that reported concerns about orders or some of the other issues because I wasn't part of them. But I can tell you that every one of those situations was investigated and investigated thoroughly. It is the unfortunate reality of Hamilton's very old combined sewer system that there are overflows from time to time. It's the way that the system was designed to work. It's absolutely imperfect and something that we in our careers and as stewards of the environment and members of this community need to work to improve on moving forward. But they do happen. And, with respect to the members of the Indigenous community who reported the floatable sanitary materials, we have a number of locations across the harbor front that can discharge during a wet weather event, combined sewage, so a mixture of rainwater drainage, and wastewater that's coming from people's homes and businesses. And only a fraction of those locations, have containment facilities such as CSO tanks or infrastructure in place to mitigate the impact of combined sewage at that location. And the combined sewage tanks in particular, they're meant to store material, but they're also meant to prevent things like floatable sanitary material that's flushed down people's toilets, or it makes its way into the sewer system from getting out into the environment. And we did investigate that infrastructure with every report, and unfortunately, we didn't find anything. It's also unfortunate that, when we responded to odor complaints in the Chedoke Creek area, and that involved an investigation looking for discharges from uncontrolled locations. It involves sample collection, an interpretation of those sample results. And you see things like bacteria or nutrients that are constituents of contaminated water, either combined wastewater or sewage, but it didn't raise any flags. And why it didn't raise any flags is because historically, the Chedoke Creek area has been known to have discharges, and the results that we saw weren't abnormal in the context of historical sample results in those areas. Now, a lot of that sounds like an excuse, and I don't mean it to be an excuse, because we absolutely should have known. There was data being collected over a period of time that was being looked at points in time. And when you look at a single set of sample results, you may not see something that looks abnormal. What was missing was looking at a long-term trend and looking at changes in those results. And we had the data, but we weren't looking at it in that light. And that's unacceptable. Our programs that controlled the infrastructure should have been correct. They should have been programmed right to identify to our staff immediately when a gate that should never have been opened without proper permits and everyone being aware of a maintenance situation going on. That programming should have been correct, and our staff should have known, and our community should have known that there was something going on if that gate was ever to be activated. Our staff should have been trained right. They weren't. They should have known, every staff member should have known that gate existed, its purpose, when it should be operated and under what circumstances, and when any abnormal operation should have been reported, and they didn't. All of that is our responsibility as the operators of that system. And quite frankly, we failed the environment in this situation. We failed our community. We failed our partners in protection in the environment. And that's something we take very seriously. Here we sit 4 years approximately, actually getting very close after discovering the spill. And I can tell you, I was there when we found it. And the staff that found it, they had no idea that it was going on. You could see it in their faces. You could see the disappointment in their faces and the fact that they took it to heart. Here we sit almost 4 years later. And I guess what I'd say is that at this point, all we can do is apologize to the community for that failure, continue to make amends and make amends by doing the right thing, rehabilitating the contamination, investing and working to improve that watershed, and then working to rebuild trust. We know we lost trust, and we know we need to earn it back, and that's a commitment that we take very seriously too. And it's something that we work at every single day, and hopefully over time we can achieve that. But certainly we're aware of the mistakes that were made. So,
it's a hard discussion to have. And I think our effort has been on trying to rebuild that trust. And I think to Nick's point, it's not assured, and it continues to take work. And it means sometimes being uncomfortable and telling hard truths. But we have to lean into those values in the work ahead, because the work ahead is really critically important. And I think the staff that are on this call have been doing that work, doing it in full partnership with all the water keepers. And I've been very impressed with the way in which they are working. And I know their commitment is to doing good. But they also can't do it alone. And I think that's why we want as many eyes and ears on this, and to have these sorts of public meetings and to work in partnership with all members of the public, including the RBG, the Bay Area Restoration, Redeemer College, representatives of different Indigenous groups. And that is our commitment. It's also our commitment, and I know Mr. Winters brought it in his last budget, is to lean into what are our needs, and then let elected councils be held responsible for those choices. And I was very appreciative of that. So,
is the southern limit of the dredging area related to the elevation of the area further south, having resulted in no harmful sediments going that far upstream or below some tolerable level? Or is there some other grounds on which that area was chosen?
If you like, Stephanie, I can take that on.
Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, so it's Ron Scheckenberger. So I'm with Wood, and we're the engineers supporting the city. So it's a good question, why in that location? So there's basically two reasons. We are not just removing material to remove material. We're looking where the most contaminated material is and where that material is best removed for the ecology of the system. So all of those samples, soil samples that Tim was describing, they provided us an excellent profile of where the material is. And in that upper part, there's actually more gradient on the stream, and it's a little bit more cobbly. And there's actually very little that has been deposited, largely because the water has more energy and it's able to move a little bit more, and there's not a process of sedimentation. So what you're looking at is removing the removing the sediment where it's located in that backwater zone, which is the lower part. So we also have one other requirement. We can't leave the exposed sediment at a higher contaminated level than it is right now. So we, again, work very carefully with the province to develop where the different profiles are. And as Tim pointed out, it's an average of 1 meter, but it actually varies between about 2 feet and 3.5 feet. Hope that helps.
Regarding the Ainslie Woods Sewer Separation EA, is that proposal related to the current open inflow to the Stroud Road Park CSO facility?
So I can take a stab at this. So yes, Craig, you are correct. So there is a creek input going into our Stroud Road Park facility. We call that the Royal CSO tank. If you're looking on our website, overflow and bypass website, that's listed as the Royal CSO tank. But yes, you are correct. That is looking at separating that back out so that that creek goes naturally into the environment and not into our tank.
Says thank you so much for this. He was hoping you could go into more detail regarding the odor management. He's curious, as he lives on that Strathcona west side of the Dredge Park. So could you speak a little bit more to odor management?
Yeah, I can take a stab at it. Maybe Ron can elaborate. So Ian, we aren't expecting any odor management or odor issues, because again of the hydraulic dredging method and the geotextile containers, but the odor management comes from an application that goes on the geotextile containers or those socks should odors arise. So there's an application or a product that gets put on those bags so that nothing gets released odor-wise.
Yeah, and maybe just to add, it really is a complaints-driven process. And the way that we're going to be working through that is working with the contractor and ensuring that the management is well supported and not releasing any odors that would be considered concerning to area residents.
Okay, and I think you also mentioned, should anybody have any concerns, they can call the main city number and just tell them they're looking for the Chedoke Creek team, and you guys will get that right away.
Yes.
Great. And you also mentioned earlier that there would be a mail out notice sent to residents that will cover everybody in Strathcona West and the the Westdale North group. So look for that in the coming weeks as well. That'll have additional contact information and direct you to the website as well. Right. Another question, looking out for the mussels. If the SAR mussels are found in the creek during the survey, what are the plans for relocation?
I can potentially take that on, Tim, if you'd like.
Go for it.
Sure. So there's a team of experienced biologists that will be doing the locating and the sifting and the very sensitive handling of the species. And again, if they are found, the plans would be to relocate those in areas where they are known to exist and also in the restoration areas. So that's all going to be done in consultation with the provincial agencies and also the RBG. The RBG has a tremendous amount of knowledge about this species, and we've been working closely with them as to where they are and where they're thriving. So that's the idea, to ensure that this is done very collaboratively.
Noting the graffiti on the offending faulty waterway gate, it leaps immediately to mind. If this structure can be accessed, it is a glaring vulnerability. Any infrastructure of this importance needs to be absolutely off limits, impenetrable. Going forward, will this accessibility be strictly corrected?
So I'm happy to answer that. I'd say it's very unfortunate that the infrastructure was accessed in that manner, and maybe many folks on this call have seen a video from and I believe they characterize themselves as an urban adventurer who climbed through quite a length of sewer pipe and made their way into the chamber where this gate resides. I could wish that community members with that type of interest in our infrastructure thought more strongly about their own health and safety, because a lot of things could have gone wrong that could have resulted in an injury or worse to that community member. If people have an interest in our infrastructure, you can contact us and we'd be happy to give you a tour in a way that's safe for everybody. But, I can tell you that with regards to, blocking the discharge, the outlet of that pipe where it discharges into Chedoke Creek with something like a grating to prevent people from entering, items like that can cause maintenance issues and actually lead to bigger problems if materials during a known overflow get caught up in those and can blind a structure or cause other issues. The location of entry in question is kind of midway between a tunnel that runs under Main Street and the 403 situated in a manner where if we as staff were going to access that to inspect it or to maintain it or clean it, there'd be a very long list of health and safety requirements that we would have to put into place in order to make sure, being a workplace, that our staff are safe in doing that work. With that said, there's no intentions to restrict the outlet of that pipe at this point in time. It is a shared outlet with other infrastructure, by the way, storm sewer pipes, so things that end up in the catch basins along the roadway could collect on a grading if it was there. What we can tell you is that, even with people getting into that chamber, the gate in question, it's extremely large. it's extremely heavy. A single person or multiple people without specialized equipment wouldn't be able to get that gate to move. It is now sealed from the inside, because the only time that that gate should ever be operated is in a known manner with a plan in place, notification to regulatory authorities and the community. And if we ever need to operate that gate under that type of scenario, we can go in with the right equipment and we can remove the seals that are there. If someone was to get into that chamber, there's no way for them to get out other than the way that they came back in. So, you know, I appreciate the optics, but the risk of tampering is really extremely low. And the last thing I'd say on that is that there is a camera in that chamber that now monitors it 24/7. So if we ever had a similar scenario of someone accessing that chamber, we'd have video evidence of who and when, and we'd be able to take appropriate action at that point in time. I sincerely hope that answers the question.
Where will the solids be taken, and where will the water go? Or does that depend on testing the material once it's dredged?
So again, I'll take a stab, and then Ron, feel free to elaborate. So the solids will be taken to a landfill, all of them. That where they go or what landfill is used is up to the contractor once they're onboarded. That is their responsibility to determine where to take it, but the goal is to take it all to a landfill. The water is collected on that impermeable membrane once it comes out of the socks, and it is piped to a manhole. So it's a manhole just kind of, I don't know my direction, but south, I guess, of Cage Dredge Park. And then that manhole is a kind of a direct line, you could say, to the Woodward Avenue wastewater treatment plant. So all that water will go underneath the city to the Woodward Avenue wastewater treatment plant. Again, on dry days only, because we don't want that water coming back out. So I hope that answers your question. If not, feel free to ask another one.
One question sort of related to, well, very related to that. Is there any sense of what portion, or in a percentage wise, of the total dredged material that will actually end up going into landfill?
So yes, the answer is 100%. So, and this is just based off of some preliminary testing we've done. So we've taken some of those sediment samples and sent them through a dewatering process on a very, very small scale to determine what the water quality and the sediment quality would be like once they're dried and then the water separated. And that's the basis for sending that water to Woodward Avenue and not back to Chedoke Creek. And that's also the basis for sending 100% of the material to landfill, not to a reuse site. I want to be clear here, it's just to a landfill. It is not hazardous waste by any means, but it just can't be reused, you know, for gardens or whatever else people reuse soil for. So yeah, it's 100% going to landfill.
I was wondering if someone could put up just one more time the truck route. And Steph, since you are good with directions, so just walk us through what it's actually telling us. So I think because we've gone through the presentation, I think this might be a little bit more, you know, we can revisit it. It might be a little bit more helpful in terms of what it means. So the dredge material area.
Sure. So yeah, I'll do my best, and then Steph, you can chime in. I'm not familiar with the ward as you are. So we just wanted to get the trucks. Again, it's up to the contractor where they go, but we wanted to get them to a highway, and then that way it would be easy to go to whatever landfill they choose. So from the highway, a truck would come back on Aberdeen, and then up, what is that, Longwood, and then due to, you know, traffic restrictions or whatever, they would turn right onto Main and then up Macklin all the way to the park. And then on the way out, so going to the landfill, they would take Macklin all the way down to King, because they can't go all the way down Macklin to Main because there's a no left, I think, on this corner. So they can't get back to the highway that way. So they have to turn right onto Main and then left onto Longwood and then make their way down to the highway again.
Thank you.
That is, I'm guessing that they're coming to from the Brantford section, and that's why you've chosen that particular route down Longwood, as opposed to in and out of Toronto. But but based on that, it doesn't make sense. And the number of axles on, do you have any idea, truck-wise, the size of these trucks?
So maybe Ron can remember better than I can. We have requested that there's no, I think there's categories of trucks. So I'm going to say light, heavy, and extra heavy. We've requested no extra heavy trucks. So that would be, maybe more heavy trucks versus less, our request is, and that's really to help with safety on the roads, along with damage to the road. That's why we've chosen that heavy category. Again, I don't know my trucking terminology stuff, but yeah, there'll be no massive trucks. There'll be average trucks, I guess.
I don't know if you have more to say, Ron, but based on my construction experience and moving of material, I would anticipate that you'd see triaxle dump trucks moving this material off-site. So 3 axles.
Yeah, and I don't think there's going to be, these would be single, so there wouldn't be any doubles or anything like that. So that, and again, given the low number, that's probably the best for this type of operation.
And it will be operating, you said Monday to Friday, start time is 7. What are the hours of operation on weekday?
Yeah, so I think the dredging, Ron, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is maybe like an 8 to 5, but I would imagine the contractor would be on site by 7 prepping, and then staying till 6 or 6:30 to shut down.
That's it, exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I know you guys are aware of that there is a high school right there, and that consideration for the times of morning entry and school exit will be respected as part of the safety plan.
Yeah, and for those on the call, just so you're aware, both schools have been contacted. So there is the French Immersion School on Macklin, and then Westdale High have all been contacted about this trucking route and our plan in general. They currently have no issues.
Will this work overlap with the work that is now started on the Longwood Bridge?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So that I am not sure of. So I can tell you that the Macklin I'm not going to call it the Macklin Bridge. If you're out there right now, you'll see that the MTO is doing work underneath the highway. So the bridge, the Park Bridge, going underneath the highway, they're doing some work there. We're coordinating with them to make sure they're gone before we arrive. But I am not 100% sure on the schedule for the Longwood Bridge, if anyone on the call is.
We'll get that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is something that needs to be coordinated because that work is started and is expected to go to September. So may want to have a conversation with those folks and we can double check that and put that information back out after.
For sure. So you have any additional questions? Tim's contacts and also the city name, and just make sure to reference that the call is in relation to Chedoke Creek. Thank you. So to all those who are able to join us tonight, thank you for your attendance and your excellent questions and your participation. This is an important topic, obviously. It can be a dense topic, but I know you share my appreciation for the folks who are on the screen. I think you have heard in their words a deep commitment to this project, a deep commitment to doing what they believe professionally is right, and a deep commitment to excellence. And I think also that the culture begins and ends with City Council. And so that is my responsibility to underscore the importance of those values that guide us in our service to the community. And it's my opinion and my experience to date that since this tragedy, this environmental tragedy, they have been showing their deep commitment to those values. So I hope that you will stay engaged. I hope you will continue to ask the important questions. And I just would like to again extend my thanks to all those from the community who were able to join us. Thank you all.